everyone, and welcome to the BKS. What's the BKS? It's the best kept secret. What's the best kept secret? Africans. For Women's Month, we're having a Women's Month panel, and today we're going to be discussing Caster Semenya. First of all, can I allow my panel to introduce themselves?
Hi, my name is Kutlwano Makhalemele. I am a director of photography and an entrepreneur.
Hi, my name is Alex Fitzgerald, and I am a lawyer who's interested in business and human rights.
Hi, I'm Loendo Hamkoma, and I'm an activist, feminist, third culture kid.
Hi, I'm Ajra. I'm a Pan-Africanist, and I'm a lawyer.
Hi, I'm Lebogang Tedang. I'm a training buyer and a feminist.
I'm Michelle Bierkes. I'm an English and drama teacher and a feminist.
So,
So
Caster Semenya. I find it really problematic, and I hate the word problematic. How problematic is the word problematic? But what I hate about this discussion about Caster Semenya, and I think particularly as a woman, is we're picking at this woman, and we're literally saying that we're comfortable. I mean, it's happening, it's live. With injecting her with whatever they're going to inject her to balance out her body so that she can compete and do what she's good at. And they don't even, they're like basically testing it on her. And I feel like we've seen this in history. I do not understand why as women, as people, as everyone is comfortable with what we're doing on Caster's body. And I think that we've had a lot of discussion against gender-based violence. We have a lot of discussion around the war on women's bodies, and I feel like this segue, this discussion around Caster and how woman she is and what we can do, and now we're like all comfortable with experimenting on her for the basis of a sport, makes me very uncomfortable.
And that we're doing it so publicly, you know, it's like there's no shame.
It's vicious.
It's vicious. Yeah. We've exposed so much about things about her that are so private. You know, imagine if people knew that stuff about you.
Yeah.
It's so personal. It's so personal, and we're doing it in such a public, open, unashamed way. It's disgusting.
Clinical.
It's disgusting. And we're not seeing it as a human rights issue.
No, and it is exactly that.
Yeah.
They have no idea. This is literally a new rule, thumb-sucked, out of nowhere. It came out of nowhere. Yeah. And then they
designed specifically for her.
For her. And they're going to test it on her.
And what they're actually saying, because what they're saying is that she's got too much testosterone, so what they need to do is bring those levels down. But testosterone controls so many other things about you physiologically, mainly your personality. Her personality could change, her moods could change, she can become more aggressive. She could actually, what they were saying is that her personality could change so much that she won't even find the same jokes funny. So we're changing not only the levels of whatever is made up, what makes her as a human being, we're changing who she is, we're changing her soul. And we're okay with that. And these doctors know that, because of course they're doctors. So they know that this will happen, and they're saying to her, you either need to choose between excelling at something that you're really great at or who you are.
We're also problematizing something that is totally natural.
Yes.
Like, this is like the worst part for me. Like, it is totally natural. People come in all shapes and sizes. We have different genders. We have a spectrum of gender. We have a spectrum of sexual sort of orientation and all sorts of things. And like, this is a totally naturally occurring person, you know, and why are we, you know, interfering? And we've just seen historically how doing that has caused so much pain. And you've seen it in the intersex community, for example, when people are born intersex, and doctors have felt compelled to basically gender reassign as soon as possible so that someone falls into the binary male and female, and those people grow up and they find that they're so traumatized by what has happened to them. They haven't been given the option, they haven't been given the choice, their bodies have been operated on without their consent. It's so disempowering, and I can just imagine like how she feels like so disempowered that she has to subject herself to something for the sake of what is actually her career. And for a Black South African woman, like your livelihood, your profession, your career, your passion, being regulated in that way just seems honestly exploitative.
It's so dehumanizing. It's almost as if we're saying that actually as women we are that little less human. You know, that we so
black
that's
woman.
okay.
Black
Black woman.
Black woman.
Yeah, like that we can actually pick and prod on you because you're not fully human. And so we can experiment on you. And you can be the one that whatever happens to it, it can happen to you because we don't want it to happen to anyone who looks like us.
No,
You
they
know?
would never.
Sarah Bartman, guys.
Yes.
Out here,
That's actually what I was
treating
gonna say.
Caster like Sarah Bartman, like
Yeah,
the spectacle of a woman that you just drag around from country to country to make you say, oh, she's African and she's
this
female, but she's
exotic
too strong. So let's like break her down. And it's a human being
It's so
in 2018, and
2018.
this person, it's time and time again. Like it's not once from all of her like the conversations about her gender and her testosterone, the amount of testing that woman had to
my
go
God.
through at the beginning. Now all of a sudden they're like, you know what?
Yeah.
No. We really need to make sure we make you as unthreatening as possible. So let's strip you of your personality. Let's strip you of your natural talents and make you this, neutral being. Like you're not allowed to be yourself, which is wild.
And this is where we talk about like intersectional feminism, right? Because actually most of her critiques
It's
are
white
the
women.
white women.
The
She's-
white
Yeah.
women that she's
Yes.
running against.
Running against.
And I don't
Oh,
understand that because I know that women have fought really hard to compete in sports.
Yeah.
Women have fought really hard to compete in athletics and been seen as like not just
so it's a
those
proper sport.
proper sport. I know when we were younger, like the girls' women's race is just like y'all can like skip the cross field and everybody needs to just start stretching while y'all do yours race.
Yeah, and then just
because
I need to get to the other side.
and here we have a woman who is dominant.
Yeah.
And I don't get why it's split women.
Yeah.
I would understand if the vitriol was coming from men, but it's not.
But it's misogyny. Like it's a very specific kind
and
of
it's other
misogyny
athletes.
and racism that
Yeah.
is directed at her. It's not just racism. It's
Yeah.
not just sexism. It's not just misogyny. It's all three at the same
And
time.
then she's African.
in the
and
same
yeah.
body.
And she's queer, so the
Yeah.
homophobia also jumped out.
I mean, Caster
it's
embodies
there.
every single pillar that we are dealing with in society. It just, I think for me, the Caster thing leaves me so helpless. I remember being in many conversations like this and I don't know what to do, and it resonates so much in my own life because I find that the body politics have followed me ever since I chose to be a director of photography, right? Which is essentially a male role. And I can't come onto set dressed a certain way or my body looking a certain way. And it just, every time I think about Caster's story, I can't help but feel extremely emotional because we're being policed at every corner. And I often ask people after we have this conversation, what do we do?
What are we doing for her?
I can tweet about it, I can talk about it with other black women, but what do I do for my sister?
It's kind of the best thing about Caster is that she keeps winning. And it's just, and this is what everyone would say, and especially after the last round of tests, and they were just like, is it going to mess up her performance? Is she not going to feel as confident? And she's just like, you know what? I'm really, really good at what I do. And she does, and it's awesome because also what's
And
really
she does.
What's so great about her is that, and this is the thing about, about these white women is that they, at the end of the race, no one comes up to her.
Yeah, it's
She's
so
bad.
That is really problematic for me.
So
I don't understand.
nothing, and she's fine with it, and it's kind of I know because we want to do something for her, but she just keeps doing it for herself, man. It's really, really nice to see.
I hate to see this as, and that's what it is for me. It's coerced consent. And we're having a huge discussion about women's bodies and about what consent is and why we're having like debates. Like as if consent is this thing that's just so
that's
far
pretty
away.
much.
How do we
It's
really
not.
know?
It's really
Like
not.
everyone knows. And here we have on a global scale coerced consent. Caster, do you really want to have people experimenting on your body? People like
She doesn't deserve it.
exactly, she doesn't deserve any of that. And then, like you said, no choice. Either you want to run,
Yeah.
or you allow us to do whatever it is to make you this. And then also for me, it goes at like the whole purpose of why we have like the Olympics or whatever is it started as, and it was men before, but it was like the ultra human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the best of like your
Yeah.
physical. So whether you have a Michael Phelps who has whatever they say his like his toes and his wingspan, whatever, like whatever that has come together in your body to
That's
make you
why you're
super
the
competitive.
best. Yeah.
That is why we had the Olympics. You had like the tallest man. You had these people who could like lift, and here you have a woman, and everything has come together to make her the absolute best at what she does. Yes, she must slam the history book. She must. obliterate the records, and that is the point of scrutiny. The thing that defined the sport. If you look back at everyone else who has competed in sport across the world, like the thing that makes me not a basketball player. You know what I mean? Like I could try, I could really, really try. I could put in the gym hours, but I'm not gonna ever compete with LeBron James. That won't work. And part of what makes LeBron James competitive is his height, is his build, is this. But then we look at this woman and we say your height, your build, your every single thing, your hormones, the thing that is making you
the way you are
above the rest is the thing that we're gonna come.
I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate. I was listening to the radio and they had this conversation, and they were speaking to a South African, whatever he was, and he was saying that, and exactly what you're saying, sport was created to separate the best from the rest of us. But when they introduced the women's sport, they distinguished between, and this is going to now open a whole can of worms. They had to distinguish between a man and a woman, because physiologically, in terms of competing, we decided that as athletics we wanted to split it. And so because we made the decision to categorize sportsmen, there needs to be some kind of a qualifier. So for example, in your basketball example, if we were to say it's actually not fair that LeBron James has a tall advantage, we're going to split leagues, and we're going to have a league for people over 1.6 and people below 1.6. Even if you're 1.61, you are above 1.6. So then the question is, then what is a woman? Is it your chemical makeup? Because if that's the case, which I don't believe, if that's the case, and that's how we've decided to split male and female, if you are over the line of what we've decided a female should be, which Caster is, because she does have more testosterone than is what's considered the average woman, then she shouldn't be competing with.
But here's my thing.
Look, I mean,
But here's my thing is that she's not the average woman, and none of the women who are running at
average.
that league, none of them. So my thing is always, and what I've never understood is this line that they created, this ambiguous line, right? This line that they created is like, okay, we're gonna test your hormones. But are you testing the hormones of every single female athlete who has ever dominated any sport across the ages?
Absolutely.
No, you're testing for now. Where's the line? Because I'm telling you that if I looked at any of that lady who came 8th, me and her have a completely different hormonal makeup. None of us can step up to that lady. None of us can step up to a relay race at.
And then you know what it comes back to is that the reason they put the line where they put it is to disadvantage people.
Yes. But that's the weirdest thing. It's like this line, all of these lines, all of these rules were created specifically for Caster. There was never these kinds of discussions about testosterone or estrogen or what makes you a woman, male, female.
When the Russians were busy dominating in the early 90s,
and
no one,
But
those
it's this
women who were
thing
throwing
as well
those things.
of black people being invited into these kind of communities. The Olympics, for all we know, is created by Europeans and whatever, and we were invited into these spaces. And when these laws and these kind of like, oh, a woman is this, a man was this, there were no Africans, there were no anybody on these tables. And so we find ourselves always invited into these systematic places and having to find our way. And when we don't fit, then the bar moves, right? The line moves. It's like,
they're not structured for
let's
us.
retest people because here are the Africans.
And they definitely want to always remind us. We are always being reminded of where we belong.
Because if you rise too far, darling, if you rise too far, and if you win too much,
disturbing
of
the
course,
peace.
let's get you off of your high horse.
But this is exactly
right.
Yeah.
Why did you rise?
Yeah, we designed everything to make sure you don't rise, and you still. What is going on? The system is falling apart.
It comes in a historical context where we've seen this all the time, where sports bodies, industries, everyone involved in a sport can actually openly express frustrations when there is a black dominating athlete. We saw it happen with the Williams sisters in gymnastics. We've seen it happen where people are literally saying, oh, Tiger Woods is making golfing boring because he wins too much. It's saying that like, oh, the Williams sisters are too dominant. It's not exciting anymore. Instead of being totally enraptured and in awe of these performers and being like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. This is something that's never been done, pushing the envelope. you know, historically when that man, I don't know what his name was, broke the 1 minute mile, because so there's a long period of history where no one could run a mile in under a minute, and then someone did it, and then suddenly everyone else could do it, because it was sort of like a mental barrier as well as a physical one. And I think that sort of like, that was celebrated. That person is an icon.
He wasn't tested
in athletic history. You know,
and that should have been, who are you?
Exactly. If he was the first one ever, there would be questions there. You know, what's going on? Yeah, and they didn't even question it.
Yeah, but when it comes to black athletes, there's just this level of scrutiny where it's like, you know, that it almost seems as if there's this context that says like, we don't want you to win. You know, we want to, like you were saying, we want to cut down the tall poppy. We don't want to celebrate your successes and achievements. We actually want to diminish and suddenly we want to make the playing field even. When half the time when you are a black person, the playing field has never been even. How is the playing field even for Caster? Like the fact that Caster made it as far as she did is amazing.
But this is white supremacy. White supremacy is so afraid of black excellence because actually white supremacy is trying to teach us that white people are better. And she constantly proves them wrong. They have to keep bringing her back.
But you know what? It's also her as a black African woman, because remember, there's also like the tiers. Because remember, Black Americans are special blacks, right? So Black Americans are this tier of...
Usain Bolt is a special kind of black.
It's definitely special black. Like those
Jamaicans,
ones... Ethiopia, Kenya...
And there was a whole conversation around the Kenyans and the Ethiopians for dominating long distance sport. Even Mo Farah for England, like...
Oh, okay, but also Mo Farah becomes English when he wins.
No, but even he got questioned. And that's the reason why they started looking into his ethnicity and stuff beyond him running for England. It's like, why? What about you is allowing you to run this way?
It's insane.
It's insane.
And it's so specific. And it's so good at it. I think that's the creepiest part about it. Just when you hit another level, this whole like this racism, the sexism, it just recreates itself time and time again. And it's so insidious. Because it's so like specific, like we're talking about Caster, but it's not just about Caster, because that whole, we create a new rule system for you because you look different, and we want to make sure that the other people competing don't lose so badly. This sounds
don't lose so badly. Hey, I love that she does that though. There was a little while that she was trying to be like, okay, I'm gonna let him pretend like you are. And then they started testing. She was like, okay.
And even the commentators are like, she just makes it look so easy. If she was at 100%, she would have gone so much easier. You can see that she's just like, really guys, come on, like catch up.
There's times she's not even in the same shot as the last person. Like she leaves the shot and the last person comes steady in, and then is the one gonna be crying.
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
You beat me. I mean, you weren't even in my shot.
We're not in the same race.
This is exactly how like white supremacy tells on itself, right? Because white supremacy wants to tell us that this is a meritocracy. The world is a meritocracy. The reason people of color are not doing as well is that you're just not as good. Like you're not as smart. You're not. You're just you can't compete with us. So when you have black excellence in sports like this is saying they suddenly have to change the rules. It's no longer a meritocracy. You can't just be the best. Like she's the best. Like that's
she's the best.
That's what it is. She's the best, and they're like, oh no, now we have to change the rules because you're the best. Suddenly our meritocracy doesn't work for us.
I was just thinking when you were saying about how it's so targeted at Africa, that I actually don't know any African runners. And if you think that Africa dominates the sport, I mean, those Kenyans, and I'm pretty sure it's the same Kenyan. It must.
And the craziest thing is that this is basically gender-based violence. And wilder than that is that everything we know about the female body was because of testing on black women. And now here we are again trying to find out what is the line between male and female in athleticism via testing on black women.
Gender-based violence is basically you saying that you have the right to someone's body. And that's just what we have been. I mean, you said earlier about psychic department, it's what we've just been forever. That people have just felt like they have the right to dominate our bodies. Like we are just, and this is what I was saying earlier, we're not human. We're not human to them. They don't see us as being people, human beings. and that's why the freedom that they have to just do what they want.
It's so wild though, because if you think about like our contribution to the world as Black women, right? Like literally just, hey, procreation comes from our bodies, like men don't just exist. Like economically, the things that, the levels of exploitation that Black women are able to undertake is the things that underpin all of our economies. Everywhere. So the easiest woman and the least loved woman in any kind of scenario, any kind of society, the one who has it hardest is the Black woman. And it's so interesting because these are spaces where sports, connecting sports and Black people, because all of a sudden sports is the thing that got people, especially in the US, got people to go to university, right? So sports gets you to go to university. Now you're special Black, but now you're excelling too far at sports because even the creepiest thing is that this narrative has never changed. When it came to basketball, when basketball started, it used to be a white sport. Then they were like, oh, Black people can play this sport, but not too many. Now it's a Black-dominated sport because Black people are faster or more athletic.
And now that's looked down upon. So now it's a stereotype that's almost made us more animalistic. So the reason that Black guys are so good at basketball is because Black guys are bigger and they're more animal-like, and so we've taken exactly what we were saying earlier. We've taken something that used to celebrate excellence, physical excellence, and every time a Black person excels in it, we make it like a bad thing.
And it's gonna be a really interesting. It's gonna be interesting to watch as us Africans enter into all of these sports. So now you're having, a lot more African immigrants in these so-called Western sports, right? Yeah. And we're getting in there, like you're seeing the first, NFL player and the first
bobsled team.
And now, and the thing is, you haven't seen what we have to offer in terms of our sports. You haven't seen us because we've been competing like a guy, like we don't have an Olympic-sized swimming pool that does this and this in every country. So you haven't seen us. Now when we have we're coming in as running barefoot and dominating. Do you know what I mean? Like Caster Semenya, one of the best things about her is she didn't go to some super school that had every single resource.
She just ran.
She made it despite all of that, and then eventually got to university where she got the real training for the longest time. That's not what she had.
But it's the same
and
like
she dominated.
So she also didn't have some Tani was busy telling him how to run.
So you haven't been, you're wilding out now, but you have not even seen us. We haven't even gotten to the block, because also, who are South Africans? We're just the ones with the infrastructure. You have not seen our cousins. You have not seen anybody else come up. So you need to get really comfortable. You don't even know if we can swim. We have entire countries who like wrestlers, and we have fishermen, and we have people who have water sports. You haven't even seen us at water sports yet, and yet you're testing us. Are you going to test now all the sports? Is this what are you going to do when we all get in?
Also your sports.
These are your sports. We haven't even shown you our sports. At some point we're gonna bring our sports onto the table. Kenya has the Maasai have their own Maasai Olympics. Where people catch a lion. A real one.
And not with the gun.
Exactly.
You must have
you haven't
like proper movie type.
You haven't even seen us compete at what we're good at.
I think the thing that scared me the most about the Caster situation was how much of this the silent violence we've consumed. Because although here we kind of are like-minded, when you go into the street or a cab or an Uber or whatever and someone speaks about Caster, it's almost like, oh well, these things always happen to us. Maybe she will leave it. Maybe and for me the thing that scared me is that we've internalized the violence so much that we can't even see that our bodies are being policed. And for me that's a bigger problem. It's so entrenched that even baby girls are saying, but you can hear Caster's voice. My baby niece, who's an athlete, was saying, but hey, maybe they're right. She is a really stronger woman, or she is. And I was petrified. I was saying, you don't even know that you're being policed in your very schools. As my little, nephew, you don't even know that you're being, you're being policed in that way. And that's why a body like IAAF can get away with testing human beings.
And why it's not going to change? Because actually, if women have internalized it so much, the men aren't going to speak up. For
Oh
it.
no, never.
So if
And
we
they're
are
not
not,
And in
and they're not, they don't
no,
care.
No.
You know, and so if we are condoning that violence, who's going to speak for us? And that's so scary when you think, how old is your niece?
She's 9.
These
Oh
kids
my
are meant to
God.
be the ones who are coming up woke. You know, they're meant to be the ones who are going to change us, and they're not. They're because they at that age, she's already accepted.
I mean, I
how
asked
women
her,
are
I said,
supposed
what
to.
if at school they did something to you like that? What if they said, okay, you can't run your 100-meter sprint that you like because you're taller than the other kids?
Yeah.
You know, I posed that to her. And she was saying, oh, I'd understand because I am tall.
No, that's
not supposed to be her
That's not how it works. You're
But
supposed
she's
to play.
internalized that, you know.
And you know what's so scary? I mean, this is as a teacher, these kids spend most of their time at school.
Yeah.
So it actually doesn't matter what you try to raise your daughter to believe at home. When she goes to school, she's dealing with these things, and she's dealing with boys, and boys are mean.
Yeah.
They're mean to girls. And because they can be, because boys will be boys, right? So they can be, and this is where that violence gets internalized. Because at 5, you're playing kissing catches, and you tell him, no, don't kiss me, and he's like, oh, but it's the rule. And he's accepted that even if you said no,
Yeah.
he's allowed to tell you, well, no, it's the rule because I have power over your body.
Yeah.
And that's from 5,
Yeah.
when they're in preschool. So by 9, she's already had half of her life where she's told how she needs to behave as a woman.
scary.
So what's it like when they get to 16? It's so scary. And actually, even if you think about ourselves as women, there was a moment where I had to wake up.
No.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I didn't. I
Definitely.
wasn't. Even though my parents didn't raise me to be subservient, I had to be like, wait a minute. The world has been created for me to think certain things about myself that just aren't true. But I had to get to that point, and that's violence. The fear to act in a way that comes naturally to me is means that I'm afraid. And I was saying this earlier, that as women, our bodies are constantly under threat. It means that I'm never living 100% Michelle, ever. And that starts from when I'm 5. You know, when my parents had to have the talk with me and my sister that they didn't have to have with my brother.
Yeah.
You know, because he's safer than I am. You know, he was allowed to go and wander off, and we had to stay close because he is safer than I am, and that gets internalized. And then I start to believe that as a woman, I should not be safe. And and then maybe you wonder, is that why Caster just lets them, because the violence that she's experienced has been internalized?
Yes.
I think that what it is, and I'm just going to wrap up on this, but I've watched Caster, you know, as all other women, and I've watched her, the hate, really, I mean, I couldn't take it. But what has been astounding has been the grace of Caster.
Yeah.
I don't know where she draws it from. I have no idea how she maintains it. But that has been at every single turn, the grace of Caster. It's just...
But isn't
It
that
washes
as women,
fantastic. And
there's
I
a
think-
lot of things that we, you know...
Yeah, and I think
check
that's
out.
maybe that's where we leave it, and we hope that the rest of the people open that conversation.
Yeah. We love Caster.
Yeah.
Yes!